Good day, 𝐂𝐈𝐕𝐈𝐋. Once again, we got our finance in focus, and I think the biggest issue definitely at the moment is the salary review. So we'll talk about that today. So first of all, the salary review, just to emphasize the fact that the salary review is fully supported. Even myself, as a Minister of Finance, we definitely believe that the salary review was necessary. We believe it was done very professionally. When you look at how it was done really very well. At the same time, it is really needed for civil servants. What I'm saying is we have our civil servants as government really do service as a nation, and they need to be compensated correctly for their services. And the review was being very clear to say, really, there's some gaps. Some places, even if you get a promotion, your salary actually goes down. So people weren't wanting to go from one grade to another grade. There were these issues in the system, and that is all being fixed now in the salary process. And I can talk for a long time on what was fixed, but there's a lot of things that have been fixed, housing and such. And so the bottom line is, it has been supported, it is going ahead, and we now need to make sure we implement it and find ways to do it. And that's probably where the difficulty comes in, is really trying to make sure now how we get the salary review implemented. So at the moment, the year that we are in, as we know, there's only a certain portion of it that was applied in the year that we are in. At the moment, Treasury is working overtime to try and make sure that we actually keep to the commitment of trying to make sure it's paid by Monday. So Monday the 27th is still the day that we believe we'll be able to make the payments to civil servants. There have been lots of problems getting here, but we believe that that we'll be able to still get the job done by that point. At the same time, the impact on this year's budget. So this year's budget is going to be impacted, definitely meaning that we're going to have an over expenditure on the wage bill front. So we are now looking at where can we make cuts in government to try to really not have the whole budget go over at the end of the year. So we're trying to make cuts to fit in the salary review that was done this year. Next year is going to be even tougher, because the wage bill is going up from more or less 800 million to more or less 1 billion. And so next year, even though we're probably going to have if you look at this year's expenditure was about 32.6 is more or less this year's expenditure. Next year it's probably going to go up at probably about 2.5 around there billion, 2.5 to 3 billion, we hope. Once we get there, we'll know all the truth. And it's meaning that the bulk of that will now be utilized for the salary review exercise, meaning there's not going to be much left next year for anything else to spend on as a government. But at least it means that we continue. We've now done the review, which was long overdue, and we're going to have to try and make sure that we can afford it as government going forward. But at the same time, even though there might be expenditure cuts, I will be fine as government, and we're not going to necessarily load more money for salary review. It just means that the year that's coming, we don't have an increase in the budget for other things. As you know, we've been trying to push the capital budget up aggressively and do certain things for growth. It means next year we won't be able to do those kind of things. But at least it means what we have in the budget, we shouldn't have to cut too badly. But there is inflation, meaning that there will be pressure next year in next year's budget. There's going to be a lot of pressure in next year's budget because of the salary review exercise. But again, I think big picture wise, we must keep in mind as a country, 7 years ago, our wage bill to total expenditure, we were second worst in the world. There's only one country worse than us. But our wage bill was 42% of our total expenditure. So which means that of all the money you have, we were spending 42% on wages, civil servant wages. Over the last 7 years, that's come down to 32%. So we've actually done very well over the last 7 years to actually try to bring that as a percentage down. Obviously now causing a lot of the pressure which we're under now, hence this review was necessary and due. But at the same time now, this review is going to take us to more or less a 36%. So we're not going all the way back to 42%, we're going back to 36%. At the same time, knowing we actually want to get to about 25%. So again, over the years coming, we're going to have to be tight again and try and review who's in the civil servants. Can we possibly even try and reduce numbers? We'll see what we can do as government to try to bring that into the right balance. We're delivering good services to the nation, but at the same time paying people what is due and making sure that you're giving them the respect that they need on the employment front. And so over the years, we'll continue to look at that and see what we can do to bring that more and more in line with the norm where we need to be. But otherwise, we believe that even though things will be tight, things will be difficult, we're confident that we'll make it through, and that next year we'll be able to afford what we need to afford. Those civil servants that obviously are all civil servants who are getting extra money. My personal advice now, sometimes these clips I do the macro, that I talk personal. I'd highly advise that we really try and live within our means. You know, one sees the headlines today saying, you know, civil servants running to Shylocks, these kind of things. And I do know, I mean, looking at pay slips sometimes, seeing the pay run, some civil servants, they get a tiny bit of money because they're so indebted to different places. So with getting above a 20% increase in a salary, it's an ideal time, civil servants, to really make sure that we try and do a reset on our spending patterns, a reset on our debt structuring, just to really make sure that we actually live within our means. Try to make sure that the loans that you take do not eat up more than 33 or a third of your total income, and leave at least 2/3 to be able to spend, and really try and bring the disciplines in place to make sure you don't get yourself back into high debt positions. So just my advice is, let's really all use this opportunity to live better within our means. Thank you.